Rubbing off a loaf of bread.
Let's be smart about this here.
Find that time to spend with the Lord.
So I have been tasked with building a bread box, assembling a bread box. I'm not actually building anything from scratch. But this is because Nicole has become a master at making sourdough now, that keeping it on the countertop on top of our toaster oven is no longer sufficient enough. So now we're moving on to creating a bread box. This one is from the good old Amazon. I believe it had good reviews. I'm curious to see what we need for assembly. It's just a flat pack. Clean all that up later. There we go. Do this without scratching. Instructions, yes and yes. A nice little screwdriver. They give you everything you need to be a pro builder. I would argue better than IKEA's. They're not marked. Take back what I said, IKEA's better than this. So you can align it, and then we have to do our manual labor. This is as professional as it gets for living in an apartment. The Hoto electric screwdriver. Might break your stuff. Okay, I see how this is going to be a little bit cumbersome. Use that to assist me. There we go. I have a better idea. So that's kind of a neat trick for those who don't know. Not that this matters, but put a magnet on my screwdriver. It magnetizes. For the last piece, we put the roof on. Is that really how that goes? Yeah, it is. Okay, it's just poor craftsmanship. I'll line this up, and here we go. Completed bread box to house sourdough and bagels.
So Vinny has finished the bread box and we're gonna start loading it up. I added some parchment paper to the bottom. And the other night I was attempting to make some sourdough bagels. It's the second attempt, still not my favorite, but it's just a bit of a work in progress. So we're just gonna add these in here. And then I do have like half of a loaf that Vinny and I have been eating. It's not as nice looking, but we're just gonna throw it in here as well. And then I currently have another loaf baking at the moment, which that'll go in the bottom. Here is the completed loaf. Let that guy cool. And then when it's ready, we'll throw it back into the new bread box. So I've mentioned it in other videos, but I am someone who likes to plan a lot of stuff. I love routines, I love scheduling, I love my Google Calendar, and I like keeping myself busy. Sometimes I feel like the busier you are, the more productive you feel, but that's not always the case. I was watching our church live stream the other day. The sermon talked about a lot of good stuff, such as not knowing the time that God's going to come back, our plans versus God's plans. But ultimately, the one thing that really stuck out to me from last week's sermon was busyness. The pastor on Sunday was talking about how the devil doesn't make us bad, he makes us busy. If there isn't margin, then you're not living in the way of Jesus. Ultimately, we have to intentionally find that time to spend with the Lord. And that kind of put things into perspective for me. If I'm constantly busy, I'm not spending that time with the Lord. And that's kind of where I was in this weird, I guess you can say, season of life where I felt like I want to be productive. I want to get all the stuff done. I want to look back and see how much I accomplished. But I also want to be more intentional with having a slower life and making sure I'm not filling up my plate too much to the point where I don't spend any time with God. So that's why I wanted to do a bit of a February reset where I'm just looking at what am I doing, what am I spending my time on, and how can I revamp it. I am working on a couple things sourdough related. I am planning on doing a surprise little delivery to both my family and my in-laws. I wanted to drop off some sourdough stuff. So I'm making some sourdough loaves, some bagels. I attempted sourdough bagels the other day, so it was not a complete fail, which is a good sign. Just working through this current loaf right now. Vinny and I cut open one of the loaves. I showed this, so this is what this looks like. Oh no. Perfect. So the first stop we're going to is my parents' house. I'm gonna be dropping off a loaf of bread, gonna be picking up a couple things. So I gotta do some tax stuff. Is this tax season? Yeah, we'll get this stuff, head back to the apartment after, go working on some more things. Just have a good day. So I texted my parents asking if I can just head over. No one replied, so we are just stopping by. Here's the loaf. It's wrapped up in my cheesecloth with flour flying everywhere. Let's go. I'm back at the apartment. Delivering to my parents was a success. At first when I showed up, they were not there. Thankfully my brother was home, but they ended up showing up, so I was able to give them the loaf. Now we are moving on to the bagels. We are going to be packing up the bagels in the loaf that I'm going to be bringing over to my in-laws. The loaf's still a bit warm, but here it is. Ready to go. Bagels. I am really blessed to have my in-laws and my parents live so close to Vinny and I. So it's nice to be able just to stop by. I'll title this Sourdough Bagels. Put a heart. And bagels. Let's make a delivery. Okay, I just made it to their neighborhood. A little fun fact, Vinny and I actually were dating for 6 years before we got married. So I spent a lot of time driving into this neighborhood. Okay, let's go drop off the bread. One thing that coincides with what I was talking about earlier regarding slowing down. Last year, as foolish as it may sound, I finally finished one book cover to cover, and as someone who has pushed off reading for the longest time but always wanted to get into it, that was a big accomplishment for myself. And this year, I want to complete 3 books. Honestly, after I heard the last sermon that I previously talked about, there's one other book that I really do want to read, and it is this one. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Vinny ended up getting this book years ago, and he read through it. Not sure if it was all of it, but he did write down some notes here. This is a book that I've been really wanting to read for a long time, so I did snatch it from him. I am going to complete this, and I'm going to try to complete this in a timely manner. This is just a perfect segue into slowing down, being a little bit more intentional with my time, and I want to just see what kind of advice this book may provide, and if there's any ways I can implement it into my life, and if there are any good points, which I know there will be, I probably will make another video regarding any of these items. Today was just a good relaxing day for me just to reset for this month, and as we are slowly approaching March, just to kind of continue to reflect on the changes I want to keep on implementing in my life. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.